when Brother Joshua asked me if I would do this, I quickly said yes, but there was a reason for it. Last Sunday, I don't know how many of your hearts were touched by the message and by his confession of what was on his heart. And it really struck a note with me because I realized I was guilty. And the amazing thing was when I went home, I think it was probably Tuesday afternoon, I sat down in the den to read some, and I was reading the devotional, and I came across, when I opened my Bible, I came across a verse that I had underlined, and y'all probably gonna laugh at this, but anyway. But in that, it's can't see it without the glasses. It's Psalm 72:18. It says, when I am old and gray, O God, do not forsake me until I declare your strength to this generation, your power to all who are to come. And I realized I was guilty. I had not been declaring God's love and his salvation to others like I should have. And I hope that I'm going to be better at that in the future. But I'm just going to share a few things that he would to start with. I told Brother Joshua I would sing y'all a song. I really wanted to, but I can't sing. And the song, I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene. And it goes on to talk about how wonderful our Savior is, and that's the way I feel. And people don't understand that living a Christian life can be full of joy if you just let it. If you let it, if you connect right with God, it will. I have on my mirror in my bathroom. It's been on there since I moved in the house where I am now, with a little ribbon on it, and it's I choose joy. I choose to be happy, and that's my. I guess it's my theme. I choose to be happy. I could have sat down and said, woe is me, many times over some of the things that have taken place in my life, but I chose not to. I chose joy. And that joy comes from the Lord. And when I came across something else where somebody had asked me to speak to somebody, and I said, Lord, what shall I tell them? And he said, tell them how much I love them. And that has stuck with me over some of these things over the years. These are just some odd things I was sharing. But I think the most astounding thing was the fact that Bible verse last week jumped out at me. Because I'm old and gray now. But it really spoke to my heart. Y'all just have to bear with me. They put it together. What I'm sharing this afternoon is really not a testimony, but it's more of I look at my life as a spiritual walk because it started so many years ago, and hopefully I've still got another years to go, but I may not. I came across this verse years ago and underlined it. It says, Lord, give me work to do as long as I am here, and leave me long enough to finish the work you gave me to do. Sounds like I was trying to bargain with God, doesn't it? But my spiritual journey began in 1934. That's when I was born, and I'm just going to give you a little background on that. But I was born to a young couple in the Depression, and it was hard times for a number of years, and it was really tough. But I had good parents. They were loving parents. That just struggled like everybody else was doing at that period of time. And the first memory I have of church, going to church, was when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. My daddy would take me, and not many people had cars, and some of us had mules and wagons, but he would take me, and we would walk about 3 miles to Sunday school and church. And when Mama would stay home with my little brother, and we would go home with my grandmother and her other sons on Sunday and eat lunch and stay mid-afternoon, and then Daddy would pick me up in his arms and walk back. That was 3 miles home. And so I was blessed to have been born to church-going people, but as a lot of people did, and a lot of couples still do, somehow or another, as they began to drift away, they became less and less active in church. I was saved at the age of 13. My daddy's family were members of the Presbyterian Church, and it's much more conservative than the Baptist, and nobody had ever told me that I needed to ask Jesus in my heart to be saved. And I had some friends that invited me to go to a revival, a tent revival down by the Yellow River there at Conyers. When I was a teenager, I was 13, and so we went that night to the revival. And that's when God got my attention. There was a beautiful gray-haired lady who realized that I was under conviction, and she came and got me by the hand and prayed with me and helped me ask Jesus into my heart. I never learned what her name was or anything about her except that she was from Stone Mountain, Georgia. That's all I know about her. But I'm sure she's in heaven now. And she sure has a star in our crown for that. But Tim and I were thinking along the same lines. God has a plan for everybody. And you may think he doesn't have a plan for your life. I don't know what your belief and what you think, but sometimes, oftentimes, I'd say more than not, he has a plan for us that is really different from what we have planned for ourselves. And one of the things that I've never shared a lot with other people is the fact that when I was 17 years old in a junior in high school, the Lord was really convicting my heart and calling me to do missions. And I had a wonderful pastor, Brother Russell Lennox, and his wife Mary, counseled with me and guided me, and I had a full scholarship to Andrew College at Cuthbert. It was a Methodist school, and I was set to go to school there. But then some things happened in my family. My parents were divorced whenever I was 13, and from the time we moved to Midland, right after that, they were divorced. And it was just Daddy and us 3 children. And I had a plan that was, but God had a separate plan for my life. And this is where I'm probably going to start rambling. But God's plan was different. But anyway, when the closer to time it came for me to go to school, we had, my little brother had some few problems, and God laid it on my heart. I knew that wasn't his plan for me. I needed to be with him and Becky. I was the mother figure in their life at that time. My Suzanne said God called me to raise children, because I raised, 3 sets? Something like that. But so I changed my plans. I didn't go to school. I went on and finished high school and got a good job and went to work. But I continued to be active in the church. And don't ever underestimate what Sunday school teachers and people working with youth can do. It makes a difference in a lot of lives, and we need to support them. But anyway, after that, I was working downtown, and this young man kept coming in and bringing them a mail every morning. And he asked me one morning, I'd been dating a friend of his, and he had said, "When are you going to give me a date?" And I said, "Well, when are you going to ask me?" It was William Wilson. And the funny thing was, when he went home, he was getting ready on Saturday night to come pick me up. And his daddy said, he had been going back and forth to Swainsboro dating some young ladies, and his daddy said, "If I was you, I'd ask that young lady up there at Farmer's Hardware and Furniture Company for a date." He said, "I got a date with her tonight." And his daddy didn't believe him, but we always laughed and said he picked me out for William. But William was probably one of the biggest blessings of the biggest blessing of my life, because he was a wonderful husband. God knew it was going to take somebody that was tough and strong in the faith and loving. He just was, I couldn't have had a better husband. And we went out to dated for the first time. I had a date with him on the 9th of October. And I hope I'm not boring y'all with all this. On the 9th of October, 1953, it's on a Saturday night, we went to a movie, and when he came home and brought me in, he said, well, can I come back out to see you tomorrow afternoon? I said, it's okay. So when he came and we picked me up, we went to ride, and he said, well, what are we going to do tonight? I said, we can go to church. He said, go to church. He said, which church? I said, it don't matter, your church or my church. As long as we go to church. And he said, well, we go to my church tonight, we'll go to yours next time. I think he was afraid of those Methodists. But these are just some of the things that have happened in my life. And I am a miracle believer. A lot of people don't trust God to really still perform miracles, but I know that He does in my life. That I've had some almost every day is just to wake up every morning is a miracle when you get to be as old as I am. Have as much to be thankful as I do. I guess one of the other highlights of my journey that I like to share with you, I was just a little country girl raised up poor, and when Wayne Gray called me one Sunday night and said, Mother Sue, I have submitted your name to the committee to serve on the IMB, and I said, you can't do that. I don't want to do that. And he said, will you just pray about it? And after he talked about finally, I'll pray about it, but I'm not going to do it. But anyway, the next morning, about 10 o'clock, the chairman of the committee he had given my name to was calling. I said, you got to let me pray about it. But anyway, later I finally agreed to take the position. And then a day or two later, before I was supposed to go on the first trip. And here I am, I'm going to be flying all over the country to different places by myself. Never flown a whole lot, just a few times on our trips to Mexico. But I was working out in the yard and working in my flowers. And I said, Lord, I don't want to do this. I want to stay right in my flower garden where I'm happy. And he said, okay, Jonah, and if you think God can't speak plain to you, you're just not listening. Because that was plain. I said, well, I don't want to wind up in the bed in the whale. I guess I better go. So anyway, that was probably one of the greatest experiences that anybody could ever have, not just me. And I want to encourage you when we talk about witnessing, I can't do this and I can't do this, that. One of the things that I guess that will always stick with me was I was in London. It was a cold afternoon, and we were getting prepared to go over to some of the Muslim countries to work for a few days with some of the missionaries. And gosh, I forgot where I'm going to see. I'm getting old and gray. But anyway, I can't never forget this. They took me and one other lady that was a friend of mine. We had become close friends. And they put us out on the main street in London with a handful of tracts in Muslim language to witness to the Muslims. They give us a little bit of training, but we were to pass out tracts. And they said, if you give them a tract and say free gift, they'll take it. Well, that was an experience, but don't ever say you can't witness, because you can somehow or another. But we survived that. But we had some tremendous experiences while I was on the mission board, and it was really a blessing. Although I sure didn't want to go to start with, it was such a blessing to be on the mission board, and I still keep in touch with some of the folks that was on the board with me. And I talked about the fact that a few minutes ago I mentioned the fact that I am a miracle person. A miracle is a God thing. And I just want to share with you some of the ways He's worked in my life. When you travel the spiritual journey or a road, every road has ruts and potholes in it, and I had my share of those. But God has seen me through a lot of different things in my lifetime. But I'm one of those people that whenever you say, well, how are you today? I'm good. And I am good because I've got Jesus. But there have been some hard times with and sometimes the things that we've really prayed over, God's answer is not always what we want it to be, but He has a reason for everything. One of the things that one of the hardest things, when Jake was 18 months old, many of you know that he had a serious accident and was rushed to Augusta where it was a brain injury where they did surgery. And Dr. Curry came in and talked to me after the surgery, and he said he told me that he may not be able to see again, and he probably would not recognize me. And I said, yes, he will. And when we were there talking, Dick began to cry and reached up his little hands and started saying, Mama, Mama. And Dr. Curry said, he knows who you are. I think he was shocked. But it's just one of the miracles in our lives. And some of the other things that just a few years ago, I was getting ready for, I had some heart problems, and they did some tests and said that I had a leaking valve and they would have to repair it. And whenever the time came for that, I was there at the hospital in the heart unit, and they were getting me set up ready for the surgery. And they ran a test, and my cardiologist said, you don't need a heart valve, you don't have a leaking valve. So, and I know that God cleared that up, because when you do that test and it shows up, and then they get ready to do it, and the trouble's no longer there. But there's so many things like that that have happened in my life. But I just want to encourage all of you, just don't pass up an opportunity to share others with you. Sometimes we can reach others by sharing the things that have happened in our own lives. And I know that y'all are ready for me to hush, but I want to ask you something. How many of you have your little blue book? You know what a blue book is? It's a passport. I can take this little blue book and just travel all over the world, and have pretty much done that until a few years ago, until I was there, take it off the board. But what's your passport into heaven? Your passport is Jesus. If you don't have Jesus, you're in big trouble. And that's what we need to impress upon those that we have an opportunity to share with. If we don't have Jesus as our passport, we are not bound for heaven. You've got to have Jesus in order to make it to heaven. I probably could have talked a lot longer, but I think I said enough.